The scorching sun of Arizona bathed the agave fields as Ethan Foster returned home after a long day of work. His calloused hands showed years of dedication to the land, cultivating the mezcal that had sustained his family for generations. He wasn't a wealthy man in monetary terms, but the dignity with which he walked was worth more than any fortune. That day was special. Lucy, his little daughter, was turning 7. For months, Ethan had saved every dollar he could from selling the artisanal mezcal he produced. The girl dreamed of a doll she had seen in a television advertisement, a beautiful figure with a turquoise dress with traditional embroidery. "Dad, do you think I could ever have a doll like that?" Lucy had asked him months ago, her eyes bright. "With hope." "I promise you will, my child," he replied, stroking her black hair. And Ethan never broke his promises. The man adjusted his worn straw hat and looked toward the horizon. Downtown Santa Fe was an hour's walk from his small plot of land. The store Enchanted, newly opened in the main plaza, was where he had seen the doll his daughter wanted so badly. It was an elegant boutique that contrasted with the traditional shops in the area, attracting mainly wealthy tourists and the local elite. With determination, he took the bus that would take him to the city. In his pocket, carefully folded, were the bills that represented months of saving. Upon reaching the plaza, Ethan immediately felt out of place. The restored colonial buildings now housed luxury stores, elegant cafes, and exclusive restaurants. Enchanted stood out with its modern glass and fine wood facade, illuminated with sophisticated lights that made the products displayed in its windows shine. He took a deep breath before entering. The air conditioning hit him like a cold wave. So different from the heat he was used to. The interior was even more impressive. Marble floors, polished wooden shelves, and staff dressed in impeccable uniforms. Several employees looked at him sideways, evaluating him with disdain. "Can I help you?" finally asked a young salesman named Alex, according to his badge. His tone was polite but cold, and his smile didn't reach his eyes. "I'm looking for a doll," replied Ethan, trying to ignore the discomfort he felt. "One with a turquoise dress with embroidery. I saw it in your window a few weeks ago." Alex narrowed his eyes. "Ah, you're referring to our American Roots collection. They're exclusive pieces made by internationally recognized artisans," he explained with a somewhat pretentious tone. "They're in that display case." Ethan walked to where he was directed, feeling the stares of other customers and employees. The doll was even more beautiful up close. Meticulous details on her dress, black hair braided with colorful ribbons, and small beads representing the Santa Fe culture. "How much does it cost?" he asked, already taking the money out of his pocket. Alex exchanged a glance with another salesman before answering. "It cost $280, sir. It's a collector's item." Ethan nodded. It was exactly the amount he had calculated and saved for. He extended the bills, some wrinkled from having been stored for so long. Alex looked at the money with disgust, without taking it. "Excuse me, sir, but perhaps you should consider other options. We have more accessible alternatives in the local market store. These dolls are pieces of art, not simple toys." Ethan's face tensed. Another employee named Richard approached and spoke quietly to Alex, although loud enough for Ethan to hear. "These pieces aren't for everyone. They need special care." The humiliation grew in Ethan's chest, but he remained firm. "I have the full amount. I want that doll for my daughter," he insisted with dignity. Richard shook his head. "With all due respect, sir, this store caters to a certain type of clientele. We don't want to cause discomfort, but maybe it's better if you look elsewhere. It's not just a matter of money, but of suitability." Indignation was beginning to boil inside Ethan when a female voice, firm but sweet, interrupted the conversation. "Is there a problem with customer service?" The salesman turned in surprise. An elegant woman dressed in a cream-colored suit and traditional Santa Fe accessories watched them with a severe expression. Her presence commanded immediate respect. "Mrs. Carson, we were just suggesting more suitable alternatives for the gentleman," explained Alex, visibly nervous. The woman, Melanie Carson, observed Ethan with curiosity. For a moment, something in her eyes seemed to recognize him, but her expression remained professional. "Did you find what you were looking for, sir?" she asked Ethan directly. "Yes, this doll for my daughter," he replied, firmly holding his dignity. "It's her birthday." Melanie smiled, and for some reason that smile seemed to contain a secret. "That's an excellent choice. The embroidery is inspired by the traditional textiles of the northern mountains," she commented, carefully taking the doll. "Alex, please prepare a special wrapping for the gentleman's gift." The salesman exchanged confused looks as Melanie guided Ethan to the main counter. "I apologize for any misunderstanding," she said quietly. "Sometimes the staff forgets that a person's value isn't measured by their appearance." Ethan simply nodded, still bewildered by the sudden change in treatment. He paid for the doll, and Melanie personally wrapped it in beautiful paper with traditional floral motifs. "Your daughter will be very happy," she commented as she handed him the package. "Thank you, Mum," replied Ethan, observing her attentively. There was something familiar about her, but he couldn't identify what. As he left the store, Ethan couldn't help but feel there was something strange about that encounter. The way that elegant woman had intervened, how she seemed to perfectly know the details of local crafts. But those thoughts took a back seat to the joy of imagining Lucy's face when she received her gift. What Ethan didn't know was that this casual encounter at Enchanted would trigger a series of revelations that would forever change his life and that of his little daughter. Ethan's small adobe home lit up with Lucy's smile when she unwrapped her gift. Her eyes shone upon seeing the turquoise-dressed doll exactly as she had dreamed. "It's perfect, Dad," she exclaimed, hugging the doll against her chest. "Her name will be Hope." Ethan smiled, feeling that every dollar saved and every moment of humiliation had been worth it. The celebration was simple: tamales prepared by Mrs. Sophia, Lucy's grandmother, and a small cake purchased from the town bakery. But for the girl, it was the happiest day of her life. While Lucy played in the yard with her new rag friend, Ethan sat on the porch, thoughtful. The image of that elegant woman in the store continued to haunt his mind. There was something in her gaze, in the way she spoke, that awakened dormant memories. "I see you worried, son," commented Mrs. Sophia, sitting beside him. "Did something happen in the city?" Ethan told her about his experience at Enchanted, the salesman's contempt, and the strange intervention of Mrs. Carson. Mrs. Sophia's eyes opened with surprise upon hearing that name. "Melanie Carson?" she asked with an expression that Ethan couldn't interpret. "I think that's what they called her. Do you know her, Mom?" The old woman remained silent for a moment, as if evaluating what to say. "Many years ago, when your father was still alive and we had the most respected mezcal in the region, the Carsons were our business partners," she finally explained. "Mr. George Carson was a businessman who helped distribute our mezcal in the capital. He had a daughter, Melanie." Ethan felt a chill run down his back. What happened to them? There were disagreements. Your father refused to industrialize production as the Carsons wanted. They left and we lost our main distribution channel, the old woman sighed. "Shortly after, your father fell ill, and we lost much of our land to pay for treatments." That night, Ethan could barely sleep. Fragmented memories of his childhood began to make sense. Visits from an elegant man accompanied by a young woman with an intelligent look, heated arguments, the sudden change in family fortune. At dawn, he made a decision. He needed to know more about Melanie Carson. In the following days, Ethan divided his time between working in the agave fields and discreet inquiries in town. He discovered that Enchanted wasn't just any store, but part of a chain of luxury boutiques that belonged to the Carson Group, a company that had grown exponentially in recent years. On Sunday, while walking with Lucy through the plaza after Mass, the girl stopped abruptly in front of a poster. "Look, Dad," she exclaimed, pointing to an elegant advertisement. "It's just like my Hope." The poster announced an exhibition of contemporary Santa Fe crafts at the city's cultural center. The main image was an enlarged version of the doll that Lucy now carried in her arms, and the organizer of the event was none other than Melanie Carson, director of the Roots Cultural Foundation. "Can we go, Dad?" Lucy pleaded. Ethan observed the poster with a knot in his stomach. Perhaps this was the opportunity he was looking for. "Yes, my child, we'll go." The cultural center was a beautifully restored colonial building. When they arrived, the exhibition was full of tourists and people from Santa Fe's high society, admiring the crafts displayed in elegant showcases. Lucy walked amazed among the stands, holding her doll and comparing it with the pieces on display. Ethan followed her, looking for Melanie Carson. He found her, next to a textile exhibitor, explaining the meanings of the embroidered symbols to a group of foreign visitors. She looked even more elegant than in the store, with a modern dress that incorporated traditional Santa Fe elements. When the group dispersed, Ethan gathered courage and approached. "Mrs. Carson," he greeted, removing his hat. She turned, surprised. Upon recognizing him, an enigmatic smile formed on her face. "The gentleman with the doll," she said, and then her gaze fell on Lucy. "And this must be the fortunate birthday girl." Lucy smiled shyly, showing her doll. "Her name is Hope, Mom. She's just like the ones here." Melanie crouched down to be at the girl's height. "It's a very special doll," she explained sweetly. "Do you know why? Because it's made with the same techniques our grandmothers used. Each stitch tells a story." While Melanie conversed with Lucy about Santa Fe traditions, Ethan observed the interaction with a mixture of confusion and fascination. There was something in the way the woman looked at his daughter, a tenderness that went beyond simple kindness to an unknown child. "Lucy, why don't you go see those Alebrije figures?" suggested Ethan, pointing to a nearby but visible exhibit. "I'm going to talk with the lady for a moment." Once the girl moved away, Melanie stood up, facing Ethan with a serious expression. "I'm glad to see you again, Mr. Foster," he completed. "Ethan Foster." Melanie's face changed as if she had just confirmed a suspicion. "Foster," she repeated thoughtfully. "Son of Mr. Matthew Foster, the mezcal maker from San Diego?" Ethan nodded, surprised. "My mother told me that your family and mine had business together some time ago," he commented, studying her reaction. Melanie remained silent for a moment, observing Lucy in the distance. "It's a complicated story, Mr. Foster," she finally responded. "One that perhaps we should discuss at another time and place." She took a business card from her purse and handed it to him. "My office is on the second floor of Enchanted. Come tomorrow at 5 if you're interested in knowing the truth about our families." Before Ethan could respond, a suited man approached. "Them." "Melanie, the representatives from the Department of Culture have arrived," he announced in a formal tone. "Thank you, Edward. I'll be right there," she responded, and then addressed Ethan again. "It was a pleasure meeting your daughter, Mr. Foster. She's a lovely child." As he watched her walk away, Ethan felt he was on the verge of discovering something that would change his life. He looked at the card in his hand. Melanie Carson, General Director, Carson Group. On the back, written by hand in elegant calligraphy, it said, "Some debts from the past still wait to be settled." That night, after putting Lucy to bed, Ethan sat with his mother in the kitchen. He showed her the card and told her about the encounter. "There's something I've never told you, son," said Mrs. Sophia with a trembling voice. "Something about Melanie Carson and our family." The old woman's face reflected a mixture of guilt and sadness as she began to reveal a secret kept for decades. "Your father and George Carson weren't just partners. They were friends, almost brothers. The break between them was more than a business disagreement. It was a betrayal that changed the destiny of both families." As the night progressed, the story that Mrs. Sophia revealed left Ethan increasingly astonished. Each word was a piece of a puzzle that was beginning to show a completely unexpected image, a truth that connected his humble present with a past full of broken promises and never confessed feelings. The following afternoon, the sky of Santa Fe was tinged orange when Ethan climbed the stairs of Enchanted toward Melanie Carson's office. Each step resonated in his mind, along with the revelations his mother had made the night before. The secretary announced him, and moments later, he found himself facing Melanie in an elegant office decorated with Santa Fe art. Through the windows, the majesty of the main plaza could be appreciated. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Foster," said Melanie, indicating that he should take a seat. "Coffee?" "I'd prefer mezcal if you have it," replied Ethan with a hint of irony. After all, it was what united and separated our families. Melanie smiled with melancholy and extracted a bottle of artisanal mezcal from a cabinet. She served 2 small glasses and handed one to Ethan. "Tears of Agave," he read on the label. "This was the mezcal my father produced." "And it still is," confirmed Melanie. "My company buys all the production from small producers in San Diego who maintain Mr. Matthews' original recipe. The difference is that now it's sold in luxury stores around the world." Ethan tasted the mezcal. The flavor transported him to his childhood, when his father explained the secrets of distillation to him. "My mother told me last night about the true story between our families," he finally said. "But I want to hear your version." Melanie sighed deeply. "My father, George, and yours were more than partners. They grew up together, shared dreams. When my father returned from studying business administration in the capital, he proposed expanding the mezcal business, taking it beyond the borders of Santa Fe," began Melanie, with her gaze lost in memories. "Mr. Matthew was a purist. He believed that industrializing the process would betray tradition. They argued, but that wasn't the real reason for their break." She paused, as if deciding how much to reveal. "The real reason was me, Ethan, or rather what I felt for you." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He had never heard Melanie call him by his name, much less insinuate a personal connection. "What do you mean?" "We met when we were young. I used to come with my father to meetings at your house. You barely noticed me, focused on learning the mezcal craft alongside Mr. Matthew, but Melanie smiled nostalgically. "I saw in you everything I admired: honesty, dedication, connection with the land. I fell in love in silence." Ethan tried to remember. He had blurry images of a quiet young woman who always carried a book, observing from afar while he worked with the agaves. "One day I gathered courage and wrote you a letter confessing my feelings," continued Melanie. "I left it in the still where you used to work, but it was your father who found it." "My father?" Ethan was astonished. "Mr. Matthew read it and became furious. He came to our house and accused my father of using his city daughter to seduce his heir and thus take over the lands and mezcal recipes." Melanie's voice broke slightly. "The things that were said that night were unforgivable. My father, wounded in his pride, swore we would leave Santa Fe and that someday we would return to show who the real traitors were." Ethan vaguely remembered a night of shouting, doors slamming, and his mother crying in the kitchen. The next day, the Carsons had disappeared from their lives. "We established ourselves in Denver," continued Melanie. "My father used his contacts to create a Mexican craft distribution company. I studied design and business administration. Over the years, we built the Carson Group. 3 years ago, when my father fell ill, he made me promise I would return to Santa Fe, not for revenge, but to close that chapter of our history." "And the store, the exhibition?" asked Ethan. "They're part of my personal mission to preserve and value Santa Fe crafts, to give them the recognition they deserve," explained Melanie. "I hired investigators to find you, discovered that you had lost much of your land, that you lived modestly cultivating agave on the remaining plot. I wanted to approach you but didn't know how. Until I entered your store," Ethan completed. Melanie nodded, her eyes bright. "Destiny sometimes has strange ways of closing circles. Seeing how you defended your dignity before my employees, it was like seeing the young man I fell in love with." Ethan tried to process all this information. His mother had told him a similar version, adding that Mr. Matthew, on his deathbed, had confessed his regret for having misinterpreted the Carsons' intentions. "Why are you telling me all this now?" he finally asked. Melanie opened a drawer and extracted a folder. "Because I want to amend the errors of the past. This document certifies that the mezcal Tears of Agave is the intellectual property of the Foster family. I've established a trust that will return 60% of the profits from its sale to you. It's fair, since the recipe and ancestral knowledge come from your family." Ethan took the folder with trembling hands. "I'm not looking for your money, Mrs. Carson," he said with dignity. "I know, and that's exactly why I'm offering it to you," she replied. "It's not charity, Ethan, it's justice. Your father created something valuable that my company has commercialized. You and Lucy deserve the benefits of that legacy." Hearing his daughter's name, Ethan remembered something his mother had revealed the night before. "My mother told me that you visited my wife before she passed away," he said in a low voice. "Why?" Melanie's face softened. "Because I learned of her illness through contacts I had at the hospital. I went anonymously, offered financial help for the treatments. She rejected it at first, but when her condition worsened, she accepted with one condition." "Which was?" "That I would watch over Lucy from a distance." Melanie smiled tenderly. "Your wife was an extraordinary woman, Ethan. She made me promise that I would never try to replace her, but that I would ensure her daughter had opportunities in life." Ethan felt tears, threatening to spill. Karen, his wife, had never mentioned that encounter to him. "The dolls," he muttered, suddenly understanding. "The American Roots collection. The dolls like the one I bought for Lucy. They were designed based on her drawing that Karen showed me," confirmed Melanie. "A design that Lucy had created. I wanted part of her creativity to become something tangible, something that other girls could enjoy. And the benefits from that collection have gone to an educational fund for Lucy, as I promised Karen." The office fell silent as Ethan assimilated these revelations. Everything he thought he knew about his life, about the circumstances that had shaped his destiny, was transforming before his eyes. "Why did you allow your employees to humiliate me in the store?" he finally asked. Melanie looked genuinely embarrassed. "It was never my intention. I was in a meeting when I was informed. There was a problem with a customer. When I came down and saw you," she paused, "I wanted to intervene without revealing everything at once. Those employees have been fired, by the way. In my companies, we don't tolerate discrimination." Ethan nodded, thoughtful. He stood up and walked to the window, observing the plaza, where minutes before he had left Lucy playing under Mrs. Sophia's vigilance. "What exactly are you proposing, Mrs. Carson?" he finally asked. Melanie stood up and placed herself by his side. "I'm proposing a partnership, Ethan. Your knowledge of traditional mezcal combined with our distribution network, we could recover the lands your family lost, expand production, without sacrificing quality or traditions." Her voice acquired a more personal tone. "And perhaps with time we could get to know each other better. Not as the heirs of an old conflict, but as two people who respect their roots, but look toward the future." From the window, Ethan could see Lucy showing her doll to other children. His daughter's smile, so similar to Karen's, illuminated the plaza. "My daughter will always be my priority," he said firmly. "As she should be," replied Melanie with a sincere smile. "And I would love to get to know her better if you'll allow me. I think we have a lot to learn from each other." Ethan extended his hand, rough from working in the field, and Melanie shook it with hers, elegant but firm. "Karen would have liked this," said Ethan in a soft voice. "She always said that grudges are like bitter agave. They produce a mezcal that burns without giving flavor." Melanie smiled, moved by the metaphor. "Then let's toast," she proposed, raising her small glass, of mezcal again, "to the sweet agave of reconciliation and new opportunities." As the sun set over Santa Fe, two people whom destiny had separated and brought together again shared not only a toast, but the promise of a future where the wounds of the past could finally heal. The next day, when Alex and Richard, the former employees of Enchanted, saw in the local newspaper the photograph of Ethan Foster alongside Melanie Carson announcing a new stage for the mezcal, Tears of Agave, they couldn't believe their eyes. The man they had looked down upon turned out to be the new partner of the most important company in the region. And meanwhile, in the yard of an elementary school, a girl named Lucy proudly showed her classmates a doll in a turquoise dress, telling them that her dad and a very elegant lady were going to work together to make her grandfather's mezcal known throughout the world. What Lucy still didn't know was that this elegant woman had kept a special affection for her father for years, a feeling that now, freed from the ghosts of the past, would have the opportunity to flourish again, like the agaves after the rainy season.